Welcome to the 40 to 40 podcast. Join me, your host John Weiser, as I explore life 40 degrees south of the equator. Welcome to episode 1 of 40 to 40, the podcast. Today is just going to be a quick introduction to who I am and about the channel and what my experiences so far have been down here in Argentina. So my name is John Weiser, and I've been working as an engineer for almost 10 years in manufacturing. I learned a lot, had a really good time with the company I was working in, but my wife and I decided to move closer to family. And so 4 months ago, we moved down to Argentina, to Neuquen, Argentina. And I wanted to take this opportunity during this change in my life to record some of the experiences of what it's like, not only to leave a corporate job and move to a different country, but to understand the culture, understand what it's like to do business down here, what it's like to live down here in Neuquen, Argentina. So, quick explanation with how I came to the name 40 to 40. As I was thinking about names for the channel, I realized that I've spent the majority of my life 40 degrees north of the equator. So born in Cleveland, Ohio, 41 degrees north. Lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, 35 degrees north. And then most recently we were outside of New York, 40 degrees north of the equator. And what was kind of interesting with where my wife is from is that she's actually in Neuquen, Argentina. She's actually 39 degrees south of the equator. So it's almost a perfect flip from 40 degrees north to 40 degrees south. And so that means that the weather is similar in some ways, but definitely a different culture. As I was looking at the map, it was kind of interesting. There's not that many places in the world that you can live 40 degrees south of the equator. So if you're a geography buff, in Africa, you got nothing. So Cape Town, 34 degrees south. And then if you're in mainland Australia, so that's the next body of land, Melbourne is like 37 degrees south. You have to go down to Tasmania to be 42 degrees south, or in New Zealand, Wellington, New Zealand, 41 degrees south. So here I am in Neuquen. The capital city of Neuquen is called Neuquen, 39 degrees south. If I go over to the mountains in San Martin, which you guys might be familiar with that, we're at 40 degrees south of the equator, and Bariloche, which is another famous ski city, is 41 degrees south. So that's where I am now, living life from 40 degrees north to 40 degrees south of the equator. So goals for the podcast. Yeah, I want to show what it's like from working, 8 to 5 every single day, being, you go to college, you get a good job, you work hard, taking a break, spending some time in a different country, and what it's like to do that. It's not all better from what I've learned, but definitely a good learning experience so far. I also want to show what it's like to live in Argentina, both for people who are interested in tourism and people maybe who are interested in doing business or who do business down here and want to understand their colleagues better. So definitely it's learning for people in English who are listening from the United States, but also people who are listening from Neuquen or from Buenos Aires to understand what it's like to live in Neuquen. So for vacationing, for culture, for job opportunities. So I think there's opportunities for people to learn who are both native English speakers from the United States or somewhere else, and people who maybe speak enough English or can follow my English to be able to enjoy this as well. People who live down here in Argentina. All right, so what have I done so far? I had a lot of traveling. One of my goals was that we want to travel as a family once a month. So when I first got down here, that was in September, and that is the end of the ski season. So normally you ski from, I think, June until end of September, maybe a little bit of October. And so in September, we went to San Martin and spent 3 days skiing. It was my second or third time in my life skiing, but I got instructions and we did okay, and I didn't hurt myself, so that was awesome. And we went down to Trevelin, Argentina. So from Neuquen, and if you're watching, I'll pull the map, but from Neuquen, you're basically going south and west to get to Bariloche, and then if we go straight south from Bariloche for another 4 hours, you get to Trevelin. Trevelin's a pretty small Welsh community, and they have this beautiful tulip farm. So you can sit there and you see rows and rows of tulips, and then you have this snowy mountain background. So it's just beautiful. So we went to go see that for the first time, and then so that was in October, and then end of November, I needed to get out of the country to renew my tourist visa while working on the permanent residence. And so it's super easy. A 5-hour drive, we get to Chile, and then we get to go see the West Coast and enjoy some beautiful thermal waters as well. So we had to escape to Chile. And then for Christmas, the family got together and we went to a place called Pehuenia and enjoyed a couple days on the beach there, cooked a goat, and had an awesome time as a family. So that's been my exploring so far. what I've been doing to keep myself busy, basically taking care of kids and a tiny bit of consulting work. So I've had the opportunity to basically work on operational consulting, take what I've learned from lean manufacturing and try to apply that in the office or in a sales environment. And that's been a really good opportunity both to learn Spanish, to understand the work culture a little bit, and to challenge myself with applying my skills in different environments. And then last, one of the big challenges for the past 4 months has just been the cultural and language adjustment, which I think is natural. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm getting through that, I hope. So feeling much more comfortable now with doing most of the day-to-day things. Just probably one of the more helpful things for me as I was going through the cultural adjustment, and it was interesting because I think it's also the advantage of learning a language, was when I was trying to learn Spanish, or I'm trying to learn Spanish, a really helpful way is to read the Bible, because the Bible has been translated from the original language into English, and then also translated from the original language into Spanish. And so you see how the same word has different flavors or different meanings. So I'm reading through Proverbs in Spanish, and I get to this verse, and I find it super helpful. And so I'll read it in English first, because in English, what's interesting is when I read in English, I read way too fast, and I don't actually understand the content. So in English, I just go, "Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city." And I'm like, cool, I'm not conquering any cities. Next verse, right? In Spanish, what was awesome is that I read one word at a time. I read much more slowly, but the translation was very helpful. It just says, "Mejor es ser paciente que poderoso." Okay? Really simple. Better to be patient than powerful. Okay, cool. I get that. That's like better words than mighty and all the other words in English, okay? Más vale tener control propio que conquistar una ciudad. So more valuable to have control self or self-control than to conquer a city. So somehow when I was reading it in Spanish, and you have to really think about every word, it was really helpful. And I'm like, this is a perfect verse from my experience so far, my cultural experience so far. Better to be patient than powerful. Okay, so what happened? I went from being in an environment where I can control my schedule, where I'm a manager in a company, where I have responsibility, where I have my own house, I have my own cars, I can get food when I want to from whatever restaurant I want to, I can talk to everybody very confidently. And now I'm in an environment where I feel like all that power has been taken away from me. Especially at the beginning, you feel like you've lost all your power, and people don't understand you, and you don't understand people, and you don't understand the culture. So it's like you have to be patient. And what's interesting about patience isn't something that, in my experience, is not something you can learn by necessarily reading a book. It's not something you can learn by taking a course on how to become patient. It's a virtue, right? And it's not a virtue that we even, maybe in the United States at least, really hold at a high value, because we want everything we want when we want it. But it's actually interesting that it's not something that's easy to learn. So it's interesting here, the Bible says it's better to be patient than it is powerful. So what I realized is that while I'm going through this challenge of the cultural adjustment, of the not being understood, I have an opportunity to learn a skill, to learn a virtue that maybe I would not have had another opportunity to learn it if I had just stayed in the same environment, trying to perform my job well and get more responsibilities and grow in a company and eventually get more positional power. But what's great now is I'm being able to take an opportunity to work on things like virtues and skills and languages, so that if I have an opportunity to go back to that lifestyle of living in the United States again, I feel like I'll benefit from having the opportunity to learn these things. So yeah, that's one lesson I wanted to share. I could get more into the culture of Argentina in another later podcast, but that verse has been very helpful. That experience with learning Spanish has been kind of exciting to see that I'm able to maybe understand things differently or better, and it's something that's been helpful for me. All right, so what's next? In episode 2, I'm going to get into probably the most important issue in Argentina right now, which is inflation and the economy. From what I can see, it's probably the most important issue when it comes to shaping the culture and shaping the politics. And so I want to dive into that a little bit, and then episode 3, I'll be getting into the politics. I'll also be working on consulting short videos of what I've been doing in the consulting, just to show some of the things I've learned about how to visually help companies with managing their problems or managing their day-to-day activities. And then I also will have some short adventure videos coming out of some of the mountains close by that we've been able to climb with some friends, just to show my listeners and show anyone here in Argentina as well what it's like to enjoy some of the mountains that are not that far away. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to getting into more details in episode 2.